we're getting into this, we are on the grid. We are ready to go. Our first ever final in RENNSPORT here at the RENNSPORT Summit in Munich, and it's a BMW front row followed by 2 Porsches, and I take that back, excuse me, 3 BMWs already battling amongst themselves, and Josh Rogers trying to sneak in behind.
And you've got Benito at the front of your field, Rasmussen second, Brzezinski third, Kastorp fourth, then Adamowski, Rogers in 6th place right now. We're looking at him. He's had his first of his penalty points already and a tap into turn 2. So we talked about this before. 3 penalty points gives you a penalty. That means that Josh Rogers has only got 2 for 9.5 laps.
Yeah, exactly that. Excuse me, it was Yuri Kastorp up in 3rd position, so Rogers a little bit deeper down the order, but you're right, 10 laps this time, and we're already seeing more defensive battles because it's not about qualifying, it's not about top 5, it's about going for the win and going for the spin, and Danofsky, who won the first race, gets tapped, spun, and nearly corrected, but then sent off the other direction.
Yeah, that was pinball machine style there for Adamowski. He's down into 7th place behind Erskine and Rogers now. That hairpin, as we get later into this race, as people get bolder with the tyre strategy, we are going to see more and more moves there.
And the draft, I mean, Yuri touched on it, first lap in his respective qualifying in the semi. That draft, as he got into it, getting on the brakes, the ABS is excellent in this game, at least in my opinion so far, getting to the apex, but it is catching them out with how little downforce they have following, it does seem, because once more that contact on the opening lap, and unfortunately Adamowski, who was one of our 2 semifinal winners, is down the order now. Can he recover? 7th position as they'll cross the line the first time by, and we'll start to get a sense for what the actual pace is. Benito leads Rasmussen. They were former teammates in days gone by. Now one of them flies the flag solo in this race for Team Redline, and it's Rasmussen and Kastorp, although both being part of Red Bull, in different cars. You've got one in the BMW and one in the Porsche.
Yeah, we've been looking at Jacob Brzezinski in the 11 rig, currently running, well, in the field doing a stunning job. I've probably got something wrong there, but hey. The important thing to note is we've talked so much about Rogers versus Rasmussen. You can't forget Benito versus Rasmussen. That has been one which has gone around the world.
It's a spicy burrito right there, I have to say. No, Enzo looking very solid though, and was very competitive even on night 1 in this game. So no question he wants a bit more defensive action, but down the inside, the Porsche gets leaned on by the big old BMW, but manages to sneak through. So another position for Rogers, now from 7th to 4th in the matter of a lap and a half.
But he's 3.4 seconds back from your race lead. The thing is,
he's back on the attack.
Brzezinski back down the inside. You're right. Perfect pass.
Hangs the apex as well. Brilliantly done, because that's going to not only not allow Rogers to get that switchback, it actually meant that contact getting out of the throttle. He nearly came under threat from his teammate, the 2 Porsche Esports drivers together, Tommy Ustgaard. Maybe some bump drafting. Maybe they can go for it, but that, credit where it's due. Very aggressive, very bold. But I love that the tires can handle that aggression and that driving. So well done from Jacob Brzezinski to really get the opportunistic move done down at the inside of the BMW arena. And Josh takes a ball out of his page. He goes for it. Didn't necessarily love the move the first time around. He thought he could try it on his own, serve him back, but instead he comes out worse for wear as fortunately the Porsche pivots over the front axle, and he's now falling down the order.
That's 2 incidents in 2 races for Josh Rogers. I can't remember the last time I said that whilst on commentary, so he's out of the running for the time being. We're looking at Emily Jones in P9, Charlie Crostle and Josh Rogers just ahead of her. Now Emily Jones had some very good lap times in her race. We have got to remember that. She just seems to be stuck behind these 2 drivers on the exit of 2, but the draft should be getting to the head.
Well, she's 5th fastest on track right now, despite being down in 9th position, so she was caught up in some of the early drama, but she is, you're absolutely right, going to have that draft, going to be on the move down the straightaway. Unfortunately, it's a bit of a slipstream train, and therefore she doesn't get a massive advantage over it. Goes a little bit deep, nearly a chance then for Matti Sippola to make a move from behind, but he manages to get out of it and not get crossed up. Wasn't quite deep enough in, and it was Emily's corner all day long.
And of course, Emily is representing Team Content Maker, as you called it earlier on. There has been a table of all of them all day. Great to see so many of them out here. And this is the important thing. Yeah, we've got top sim racers. I'm not calling the content creators not top sim racers. And of course, they have a slightly different audience in there as well. But they are some really fast drivers, and they're going toe to toe here. It's incredible to watch.
So So this is the battle further back. BMW, Porsche, BMW, Porsche, Porsche. A pretty even representation, but a good look at how the cars react around each other. As we see Enzo Benito exiting the final corner, crossing the line to start. Now the 4th lap of the race, 6 to go. And it's pretty solid and consistent into turn 1 as well, as Fredrik Rasmussen gets hot on his heels and starting to close that gap a little bit. Freddie was 0.14 faster that lap around.
Yeah, and Rasmussen will hunt, he will stalk, and he will attack. We are looking on board on the exit of turn number 2 at the driver in 3rd place. That is Yuri Kasparov. Of course, you talked about this earlier on, about the G2 Rebel Alliance going on here. That could prove to be useful when they're P2 and 3.
Well, the other aspect to look at in this is in the previous race, Yuri sat P2 the whole time.
Yeah.
He got a little hot behind Charlie in lap 1, but managed to make that move late on Charlie Crossland. And that was BMW versus Porsche as well. And I did kind of ask him, you know, it was only a 5-lap race. Was tires a part of that? Well, we're about to find out over 10 laps if it is, because if Yuri closes up late, then there's some truth to the fact that the lightweight Porsche might just be a little more delicate on its soles and on its heels, because it can last a little longer side by side, high speed, full throttle into the Mercedes arena, and managing to get it done. A switchback from Rogers. He gets down the inside of Adamowski, but he will not give position away easily. Rogers manages to stick his elbows out and get it done.
Yeah, he forced Adamowski a little bit wide there from the Sachs curve, but he does get himself back up 1 position. We turn our attention now to Emily Jones, who now wants to go and have exactly the same move on Adamowski as they work themselves through the stadium section of Hockenheim. Of course, the bit of the track that has remained throughout its history. Turning our attention, though, further towards the front of the field. This is Rasmussen. Look at the eyes. He is just laser focused right now. That's wide, but not a penalty there through turn 1. You can run on that curve on the outside.
And look, consistency and sort of the off-track system in simulation actually leaves something to be desired and for the real world to be envious of, because it's no longer a subjective or visual opinion on off tracks. But I still think some certain sims are a bit too strict, so it's nice to see that you could use a lot of that curve. But I know that's something that they haven't fully refined yet within RENNSPORT. It's very new. We know there's more tracks down the line, obviously, for it, and it's something that will be a work in progress. Even around Hockenheim, they've already said there's a few they want to tweak, but I like that they've got that room. I like that they can get on the curbs, and because the cars seem to get unsettled a bit in RENNSPORT, it's not like you're getting a massive advantage from it.
We could talk for years about this sort of stuff. We've got some clapping going on. I think Emily Jones, she did get past Adamowski, but she just lost that position back down into 8th. So the battling's going on here. We've been looking at Freddie Rasmussen and Enzo Benito, but there is still that battle going on.
Yes, and Crossland's actually lost positions in that, so we saw that was a train. Josh freed himself from it, but Charlie's been caught out by 2 people, so Emily Jones making a little bit of headway once again. She's very competitive lap time-wise, 40.2 that time by. Everyone in front of her up to 5th place, actually running slower than her respective lap time, so she's got pace. She just needs to get track position. Meanwhile, at the front, Benito strikes back. He goes faster that time by, completing the 4th lap. 39.4 to a 39.5 of Rasmussen, and Kastorp equal to Rasmussen that time. So Benito still seems to have pace. He hasn't worn out the shoes yet on the BMW.
Gap's up to, it was up to 1.4. It's come back down. That could just be the timing, but it's back down to about 0.7 of a second when we aggregate that one out. Through 2 they come, then the left-hander on 3. Freddie's taking a lot of curb there, more than most drivers have been taking, trying to get that BMW to rotate, of course, the opposite to the Porsche.
Yeah, absolutely, and we talked about it in the interviews, respectively. The entry of the Porsche seems quite good, but also a little bit oversteery at times too, whereas the Porsche rear engine versus the BMW's front engine, that front axle gets loaded up a lot quicker, and the tires, you're asking a lot more of them. Now, it does mean you can push over them. BMWs are famously understeery cars, but they're designed to be driven into that understeer, so you can fight it. And hey, if he thinks he can find a little trick in the curve, whether it's by getting a little bit of air off the inside 2 tires to rotate the car with weight and shift, or if it's just to allow the curve to pull the car in by way of using the toe and the suspension, whatever is fine. Freddie wants to try and find that advantage.
So long as it's not the sausage curbs, you pretty much will be okay. I mean, I had an incident earlier. I don't think I know where my car ended up, to be honest. as Benito. The gap's about a second right now. Kastorp in third. We can't forget the amazing effort Kastorp has been having in that 287 car. He's been within 2 seconds of the leader all day. Won his race earlier on, and he is pretty much sitting in no man's land. The gap behind him to Brzezinski in fourth, 5 whole seconds.
Yeah, that's a massive gap for him to have right now as Ustagaard and Rogers desperately trying to get back in line with each other, but Rogers still recovering 6 seconds back on his teammates. So the fastest Porsche Esports driver sits in 5th. Change at the front? No, glitch in our timing screen. I was going to say Rasmussen jumped to the lead and Benito was falling down the order, but it quickly reset as they've crossed the line now to complete lap 6, so no change at the front. Further back is where the action all is, and Emily Jones again closing down. It's Matti Sipola that got by in the previous lap. She doesn't want to let him go, but they're going to go to war in front of them, and it's Andonovski again that's under threat.
Yeah, it is, and Andonovski versus Rogers. This one could come down to the hairpin. You can see Rogers already taking a defensive line as they come into the hairpin. Andonovski's on side, and actually there's more incident.
Oh no.
That is
Tommy Ustagaard.
Tommy Ustagaard.
So he's going to lose out positions on this, presumably. No, he's up to 4th. He actually got that done. Excuse us. We jumped on board. He was actually completing the switchback down the inside of Jacob Brzezinski. It looked like he was recovering from a spin. Meanwhile, a dive, a late move on the brakes, and it seems that you can get late on the brakes, get away with it, but Ustagaard refuses to give it up, and he even saves it from rotating around that front axle. The pivot not possible. The position lost, but you can make damn sure Ustagaard's going to be right back on the heels of the BMW, and he's going to send a message first chance he gets to Mr. Jacob Brzezinski.
When they tell you there's no damage and there's a penalty system in play, that's what's going to happen. Racing drivers will do anything that they can.
I was told the penalty system is because we're all here at LAN and there isn't one in the game, they just go outside and sort it after.
Well, we've got an octagon. We've got it right there in the centre afterwards. But yeah, either way, shape or form, it is fun to see these drivers battling. Of course, as things will go on in time, that will come under things like stewards review. But it's good to see heads out driving, arms out driving. I'd say they're taking their gloves on. In fact, they're all putting gloves on in here.
Absolutely, yeah. You know, they're serious sim racers when even for an alpha release where there's, you know, not prize money, it's a bit of fun. Yes, okay, they all want to win this, but they've all brought their gloves. They've all brought their shoes. They're all getting as comfortable as possible in the rings, and here we go again. Ustagaard out of the kink, down through the parabolica, and you can make sure and make certain of it, he will make a move first chance he gets to go back by Brzezinski for 4th position, and Brzezinski's going to go defensive, but Ustagaard on the outside might be able to outbrake him. We saw him go for the switchback last time. Bit of an elbow rub again. Ustagaard holds it, and that Porsche twitchy, but it's under control and in the straight at the braking. Does he hang the apex? Brzezinski tries to. Ustagaard reads it. Doesn't go too early on the switchback, but now this is where it gets tough. High speed, Mercedes Arena, enough room to go flat out side by side. The inside apex though, Ustagaard can hold this, and this is where the move came undone for him last time by. Hang the apex, just get the run. He wants to get on the power as early as possible, and he has enough of an overlap, so he's done and gotten by for now.
Fantastic driving by Ustagaard. Good defensive driving by a while for Jacob Brzezinski. I do want to tell you, Enzo Benito still has that gap at around a second on track, and it's now a further 8 tenths per second back to Yuri Kastorp. So Enzo Benito is basically maintaining the balance in this race, and a good racing driver won't make it a 10-second gap. They'll maintain it, drive within their means.
Absolutely that. And at the same time, though, Fredrik Masperson saying, you know, I'm not familiar with GTs. It's all new to me in just that regard, so he doesn't have as much comparison point. He's certainly a very adaptive driver, as we know, and maybe he's just holding on to this right now. But the question is, well, we don't know. Look, we saw a little bit in the last race and some in this. The draft isn't going to be a vacuum. It's not just going to suck you in like a bungee cord to the back of the car in front. But how far back is it still effective? Because it is now a 1.3 second gap. And these guys all know in their respective sims exactly the gap to leave to be on the heels at the last minute. In this, they don't necessarily have that knowledge, so maybe Freddie just needs to get on with it rather than getting too cheeky.
And some of what we call arms out driving is learning that. You won't know until you try to put the car down to the inside. You won't know until you lean on another car coming out the exit of the Mercedes-Benz Arena. You've got to, it sounds silly, you've got to do those things to know how the car responds and how the other car next to you responds.
Absolutely, and it's all reconnaissance in that regard. Fredrik Rasmussen is extremely cerebral in that regard and sort of figuring it out in his own way, whereas, you know, Enzo Benito's got so much experience both in professional sim simulations for prototype teams working on tracks in real life, and then obviously being very, very successful pro sim driver in the esports world as well. And we look at him right now looking pretty comfortable in that BMW M4 GT3 front of the field. He'll complete lap number 9 this time by. So this means we've just got 2 to go.
Yeah, indeed. So Benito continued to lead from Prasruzman. I've lost my timing screen. I've got it back eventually. Just keeping an eye out on where Rogers is, for example. That number 92 car, he's about a second behind Jacob Brzezinski. Not come close to putting any pressure on him the last couple of laps. Tommy Erskard is a further 1.4 ahead of Brzezinski. No battles going on there. Poor Charlie Crossland, he's 31 seconds back right now. Had a miserable start, as you said. So he's basically now just getting another 10 laps of practice.
Redline seem to be having a heck of a 2022 as they've won so many races so far this year. Might be on for another one here, and the first ever RENNSPORT win, even though there's not prize money. And yes, it's very much a reconnaissance alpha release event. That's still something to brag about.
Yeah.
Renzo Benito and Team Redline is just followed by, respectively, a BMW and a Porsche, but 2 Red Bull drivers, and then of course Tommy Husgaard for the Porsche Esports team. It's Jacob Brzezinski, Josh Rogers, Adonovsky, who's fallen down a little bit this time. Emily Jones back up into 8th, so she's gotten back by Matti Sippola, and then Charlie Crossland, but not far to go now for Enzo Benito. And look, this guy put in a ton of time last night. I do think he's probably done close to the most amount of laps of anyone here, and it's paid off so far.
Freddie Rasmussen, last lap of the race, falls down into 3rd place. Yuri Kasdorp is up into 2nd. So, an incident, or maybe just allowing his teammate to go by. I didn't see it. I can't speculate. But 2 corners left to go for Team Redline, the Italian dream of Enzo Benito, Matt.
Absolutely.
He's done it.
That's a solid performance from him, considering as well, didn't win his respective semifinal, but he did say if he could get a better start, he could get off to the win. He's done exactly that, and you're right. Freddie gives a little bit away too much at the end. It does mean it's not the same 2 cars in the same 2 positions. It's an even distribution. Yeah. BMW takes the win, Porsche P2, but it's Yuri Kasdorp that got the last lap pass to take a higher step on that podium. And I dare say Yuri will still be taller than Enzo, even though he'll be one step lower.
Most definitely. Most definitely. You know what the best thing about it is? You get to interview Enzo Benito twice in a space of half an hour.
Oh, not bad at all. Who doesn't like that? That guy's such a, lovely Italian, as you say, and so much experience in sim. The first ever winner of a RENNSPORT race, which I think deserves a round of applause.
Thank you.
Obviously over chatting as well with your Redline teammates immediately after. Max Benica was pretty quick all weekend, but didn't quite make it through, but you've done it for the team on your own.
I mean, Max and Johnny were a bit unlucky. I mean, they were as quick as me, so I mean, they deserved it as well, like everyone else, I think. And yeah, in the end, I took it. I'm very happy. But yeah, thanks everyone for the races and the organization. It was super fun, and yeah, hopefully we keep going now. And yeah, thank you.
You want more of this, obviously, right? With RENNSPORT, keep developing it.
Well, yeah, absolutely, we need it, and it's very good to have it, absolutely, and hopefully it goes in the right direction, and you know, in the future we can have absolutely mega competitions on it, absolutely. Yeah.
And I know Dom's going to be watching this and super happy
Ciao, Dom.
for you. Yeah, anything you want to say to Dom, the Dom father of sim racing?
Yeah, Dom, hopefully you're now proud of me, finally. No, absolutely. I mean, thanks to the whole team and to the whole squad that got me here and everyone involved, like BMW, Redline, and everyone. I mean, thank you so much.
Awesome. Thank you very much, and congratulations. I think everyone deserves a congratulations, not least of which the RENNSPORT development team. This has been a huge undertaking, 2 years only into the development phase, building their own physics engine with Unreal 5, tweaking the game, getting feedback, and then having everyone here this early to open the game and put on a pretty successful event. Very few issues technically in terms of glitches and clashes and bugs. And I have to say, some pretty good racing, so excellent start to them. And a really good job from everyone that's here. Feedback's been awesome, and I can't wait to see where RENNSPORT goes. This is just the start. Enzo might be the first winner, but there's going to be many more coming. Thank you very much for joining us. We'll see you in the future with more RENNSPORT.